Always picks the best fucking time.
That was pretty good. It's always Steven's fault.
It's never Steven's fault.
Always Steven's fault.
Oh my lord.
What's up?
It's cold.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't see it outside now.
The
It got
fucking
way
sign
worse.
was like almost blowing over.
Oh,
It's
maybe
that
you
little,
didn't
like,
see
flag
it, but
thing.
it's rough. It's looking rough out there.
Anyway,
There's supposedly another winter storm.
we're like just now getting winter.
Yeah, and it's just like
I thought
no, it's been.
It hasn't. It has been like,
like
one
ups and downs.
one like 25 day was bad. It hasn't been.
Yeah.
It hasn't been too bad. It's been very mild.
over Christmas, the day after, or was it the day before Christmas?
Was it?
There was a huge storm.
That's Christmas. It's
There's a
you're meant to. You got to get some snow, whatever.
That was just Santa doing his thing.
Welcome to the Weather Network podcast, where we talk boring shit about weather.
That was actually really cool. I feel like people really don't pay enough attention to weather and the solar system.
People pay too much attention to weather sometimes, or like
Not try reading into it too much.
The app will always tell me what's happening. Meanwhile, you're standing outside and it's raining, but the app is like, it's sunny. Like, I don't know.
The opposite is true though, as well. Where they're
oh,
it's not raining outside. How could it ever be raining? And then like 10 minutes later, it's pouring, and you're like, oh.
You can tell. You don't need sometimes. Like, future, great, that's important. But like, if you're like, it's kind of damp, it's kind of dark, it's kind of windy, it's not supposed to rain according to the app, I'm pretty sure it's going to rain. We do that frequently. Like, Lauren and I will do that. That's like almost a game. She'll be like, we can go for a walk, it's not going to rain.
Looks
this
like
guy in the sky says it's probably gonna rain, and then we're walking and we're fucking torrential.
I don't know if this is true. Fact check this.
Jamie,
I feel like that's half the stuff we say on this podcast.
Nothing's true.
So you know the percentages they give on the weather. So it's like 60% chance of rain. It doesn't mean that there's a 60% chance. So it doesn't mean that. Is it going to rain? I don't know. Let's roll a dice. 60%. It means that in the area, so like let's say it's Toronto, 60% of Toronto will get rain.
Covered in.
I don't know if this is true or not, but that is a game changer because then it comes out to the same thing.
Broke my brain.
Yeah, right. I think it at the end of the day it comes down to the same thing. 60% either way is it makes sense. But if that's true, and you're looking it up right now,
I am. According to the National Weather Service, an official definition of the percentage chance of rain, aka probability of precipitation, is the statistical probability that a given point in a forecast area will receive at least blah 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 of precipitation over a specific period.
I think that's the same
definition.
definition.
That means the area that the forecast is talking about is likely to receive.
I think that's what I said, right? But I'm pretty sure that my definition here, which may or may not be true, is the same as the other definition. You're just looking at it a little bit differently.
Okay, so there's a couple other ways that there's math. There's some real math on one of these. A couple other ways that people are explaining it. There's a 40% chance that at any point in the area, rain will touch down, even if it's just like the corner of it somewhere. There's an 80% chance you're going to get hit by something, even if it's not the whole area. I don't know, man. This is not the... I don't know. I'll take your super.
I don't know if mine is true or not. TikTok, man. I think it's TikTok and those things. I don't even go on TikTok. I've refused.
I got rid of TikTok. Every now and then I'll like put it back for a second because someone will send me something funny and I'll be like, you can't see this unless you're on whatever. But one, spies. Two,
we're already getting spies.
I know.
But it's pick your poison. It's either your government or theirs. So might as well just
give it to my own.
Yeah, let them spy on me. They're already spying on me.
But like, also, it's just a trap. Like, why is it 3:00 in the morning and I've been scrolling and scrolling? I don't need to learn a dance.
So Reddit's been getting me lately because of hobbies. You go on if you pick a hobby and you go on the Reddit. You can scroll there for hours and hours.
Discord too, to an extent, but it's
Discord
moves
get into
too fast, thankfully. Sometimes if I just want to learn like a couple tidbits, I'll just do a search for something, or I'll just like scroll up and just like read comments on certain stuff. But then it's not that interesting. Reddit will get you. And then Reddit's a fucking cesspool.
Sorry,
too.
I was just thinking of your soundbite from earlier, Uncle Joey. Oh man, that was so good.
Okay, we'll cut
Sorry,
that, I guess.
No, it's fine. I couldn't keep a straight face. I was just the back of my head. It was there for the last 5 minutes. So
Great.
yeah, that's definitely a keeper.
Yep.
Twitter's pretty good too, though. Back to
It's also a fucking cesspool. All social media is a fucking cesspool, man.
Yeah, get off of it as much as possible. Especially, so I don't know if I want to go here right now. Yeah, you're.
Yeah.
The deep sigh.
Fucking,
You know all those people during COVID
oh, here we go.
that were the tin hats, conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, know some of those.
It's kind of come full circle. I feel like in a certain
some of them are
extent.
incredibly wrong. There's been a lot of points where some of the quote unquote tinfoil hat, etc. wearers, you kind of look back and you're like, were you wrong?
Yeah, I don't know. Right?
I don't know.
It seems like they may have been onto something now. And I will say that again, I have absolutely no opinion,
no dog in the fight.
No opinion on the actual virus or anything at all, because I don't know crap about that. No, I don't know. Is it real? It's definitely a thing. People got pretty sick, and I got pretty sick from it. I didn't die, luckily, knock on wood, yet from it. I don't know what's gonna happen next now with all the vaccines. I'm joking.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm joking. I kind of set myself up for that one. I had to go. No, but I have no opinion on that. I'm not gonna say what's right or wrong or whatever. But I can look at the economy and what's happened, and that I think paints a bigger picture for me. Even that whole argument still, when a non-vax, like, I don't want to say non-vaxxer because I'm not pooling them all at once, but like the tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorists, when they say, "Oh, COVID," I'm sorry, I'm putting on they don't also know, but I'm gonna go with it. That's my tinfoil hat. All right, COVID.
You can't say the big C. Now we're demonetized or whatever.
Oh yeah, true. No, when they're all about like, "Oh, it's not." I'm doing it again. It's not.
God dang Newton shooting virus.
When they're like, yeah, the virus is fake, I'm like, okay, relax. I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure people got pretty sick, but the economy's absolutely crazy. And it's not like everything crashed or anything like that, but we were talking about this earlier. This is the first step of the deletion of the middle class in, I would say, I can speak on Toronto and maybe the GTA. I think that we're stepping a lot closer right now, and it's scary. It's not a comfortable thought to have. I don't know. I'm noticing it.
Yeah, I think it's a thing that's been happening for years, and I think there has been some huge acceleration of that over the last over COVID, I suppose, and not just locally across like North America, I suppose, probably the world. But you look at like big companies' balance sheets, you look just the difference alone of like massive conglomerate, big company, their bottom line over the last few years, and then you look at like the impact of inflation and like just the job loss and the day-to-day of like everyone else. The divide is growing significantly. A lot of the upper category have grown their net worth and portfolios and equity and whatever. And everyone else, not so much, I suppose, unless you...
See, the issue I have with this, so that happened to Galen Weston. It just came out with the President's Choice companies.
What they're like massive earnings?
Yeah, it just recently came out. But I have a problem with this because in a capitalist society like we live in, that is okay. That you can't, the invisible hand, you cannot dictate the market. You can't try to manipulate it. The more you manipulate it, the more communist you get. And that's another thing, is that right or wrong? I'm not saying, I don't, again, take me out of this. My opinions are out of this. I'm just commenting on the state that we're in.
Yeah.
These big corporations making huge profits. Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah.
The whole point is that they should be able to gouge whoever they want. It's kind of capitalism. And
I suppose the argument issue is when there's no competition.
Monopolies,
right?
Exactly.
When it becomes a monopoly, then you really can do whatever the fuck you want with next to zero repercussion on you everybody else.
What you see in, the wireless networks here.
Oh my God. That's
the grocery stores, like a lot of them have so much power, and that's the scariest thing of capitalism, is that can happen. And then what do you do in that situation? Then you have to take back and become a little bit more socialist, which no one likes.
And it's
but what do you choose? Would you rather have
the obliteration
a $10 banana or be a little bit more socialist? Whew, this podcast is taking a turn.
We're canceled by everybody on both sides.
Yeah,
in the middle.
And now Galen Weston's coming after us.
What if all you said was he's got good earnings?
Yeah, I never said he did anything
People
wrong.
don't like that you make money.
Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, given our society. Are you an asshole? That's a different story.
That's up for debate. Who knows?
A different story. I'm not the one to judge.
Yeah.
But like when the Bank of Canada, who was it, Tiff Macklem, coming out and being mad at them for making more profits. I get it though. I get where he's coming from.
That's a very specific item too. If the cost of fucking TVs goes through the roof, nobody gives a shit. I mean, yeah, okay, but not to the same degree.
No.
The cost of your PS5 gets gouged like crazy. Nobody cares.
Go for it.
That's not a like a basic necessity. A human, what's that Maslow guy? His hierarchy. The needs. Yeah. That's not as important as food. And when you have a monopoly on food, that's an issue to some people.
So I guess
taking the other side of that equation.
So I've been thinking about this, like, because in communism, the monopoly is in the government, and they run everything. So the only difference here is in capitalism, you're giving the monopoly to whoever the biggest shark is that eats the whole sea, and then they become the powerful. So I can see why communists think that capitalism is terrible, because they're like, why would we give it to that guy who just did really well and it was smart?
Yeah,
when we can just always hold on to it.
Keep it for me.
But then the issue is, the argument is, who's better? Is it like the big shark guy that's a capitalist, or is it the guy that becomes in power that's a communist that's crooked?
Who knows? And then I mean, you have the same. I suppose you could have the same argument on the socialist side too. Like, okay, we're gonna. Everyone gets taxed at such a higher rate. Who's the one deciding how to distribute those funds? Who's the one deciding what programs to put in place where and whatever and fucking whatever. Everyone sucks.
There's some programs that
they all suck.
I've seen lately that the Canadian government's paying for. That's ridiculous.
I mean, every time, almost exclusively, every single time, I've seen the numbers of any government's use of funds on anything. And to be fair, I don't understand fuck all about the goings on and how many people you need to fill your spreadsheets and file your fucking paperwork on the back end.
A lot.
But like apparently infinite. Because like just shit gets so inflated. You take so much away in taxes, and then you spend. Okay, we want to fix the road. Fix the roads, maybe bad. I don't have a direct comps example, but let's say we're going to build some housing. It's always like 8 times the cost of having someone private do it.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Like it's just so much more expensive.
That's the whole issue with NASA and SpaceX.
Use of.
That was Elon Musk's whole argument, was that NASA was using funds and these like government space agencies were using funds so inefficiently that when he went in with his own crew trying to save as much money as possible, they saved, I can't remember, I read his book, it was like 1/10 of the price.
But I mean, that's across the board, right? Like if you look at any private activity, any private company is going to look at like a government contract and be like, so you're going to pay me how much?
So do you think the same thing? Would you say that governments should be audited more by private companies?
I wouldn't say shit because I don't know shit about fuck.
Yeah, but you can have an opinion on this. This has no difference.
Audits, maybe. I'm sure it could help with efficiencies. Maybe not even like just something to kind of figure out where does this money poof? Where is the inefficiency in this whole system really? How do we get a better use out of these taxes? Maybe there's an argument to make socialism better if we can make it more efficient.
I'm not arguing for
Phil for the Socialist Party.
Yeah, that was I don't know about that, but we'll see.
I work in the wrong industry for that.
Yeah, well, seriously. I mean, that's the other argument, right? Like, home ownership is another thing, because you technically never own home.
Is home ownership a human? Yes,
it's kind of never really yours.
You pay property taxes.
You have the rights for it, and it's actually the Crown's, and they can take it back.
Yeah,
whenever
I guess
they
especially here
want.
in Canada specifically. Yeah.
I don't know. In the States, it might be a little different, but
castle doctrine or law or
I don't
whatever.
know.
You're not taking my land.
I don't know. Yeah.
There we go with the voice again. I'm rootin' tootin' government trying to take over my land.
Another clip. That's another sound bite. We got to do it. Well, we were talking about this a little bit because there's an article that we read and it said that millennials are being forced to buy that. I laughed at.
Oh my
hard.
God. Okay.
I thought it was the dumbest.
It must be clickbait. I didn't even read the article, but it must just be like, well, yeah, what was it? Millennials being never dreamt of being homeowners, but being forced to buy because of the rental situation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you have $200,000, I think was this couple that was in the article. You have $200,000 and you're forced to spend your $200,000 to buy a house. There's many things you could do with that could even provide you a return to help offset your rental increase or whatever the fuck you're complaining about with your rental scenario.
Nothing in that title is true. No one's ever forced to buy anything.
No.
I mean, maybe taxes. This is like the only thing you're forced
buy
to.
Taxes.
No, but it's the only thing you're obligated to spend your money on.
With taxes.
Kind of.
Not really.
No, you're buying
You can't take that still, even if you don't pay your taxes.
No, you're buying the right to be part of this functioning society. That's what it is. You're paying in. And you're not buying, you're just paying in your portion of the share. I mean, it makes sense. Taxes always they make sense to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. But to say that the reason millennials are not buying property is because they don't want to buy property, I think is one of the biggest misunderstatements. Is that a word? I don't know.
It is now.
Misunderstatements. It's like wrong.
Misunderstanding, is that not what
it's a statement that's misunderstood.
Misnomer.
Maybe it's that's just the wrong thing. It's not right. It's just factually incorrect. Like imagine, and I'm sure there are people that are in that situation that would prefer to rent. I know people that prefer to rent as well.
I mean, renting adds, especially depending on where you're at in your life, right? Are you set in your career? Are you set in your home? Do you want to be where you currently are? It adds a huge ton of flexibility. There's a huge argument for renting. We rented for a very long time. It's nice to some areas. Like I don't know that I would want to own property in. I don't see maybe like super crazy growth, or it's not an area that I want to be in for like forever or raise kids in or something like that. But maybe when you're in your early 20s and you're having a great time, you're hanging out with your neighbors, you're partying, whatever. It's a great spot. Lots going on, lots of activity, easy access to things, but then you want to settle down a little bit later. And I mean, I think that's probably the most traditional way to think about it, or the way that most people think about it. I leave my parents' house, I go rent somewhere super cool, things are going on, get some traction in my career, whatever, start a family, go move somewhere a little bit more suburbia, right? I feel like that's the most like traditional way you can like go through that life cycle. So there's, even in that very traditional life cycle, there is a huge purpose and importance for renting. That first place that I moved out to, probably not somewhere, one, I probably couldn't afford it at the time, and two, probably not somewhere that I would like be setting down roots for a very long period of time. But also like career flexibility, just having like, there's a lot of expenses to owning a house. There's an argument to own rental property and rent where you live, for example. This is other people have talked about this, because that's an income generating asset versus your house is not. That house is going to cost you money. If you're renting somewhere and you don't know where you're going to sit down forever, or you don't care for like the equity growth, your fucking toilet breaks, that's your landlord's problem. That's not it's something you can pass on. You can focus on whatever is most important to you at that time. There's very much an important point to renting in society. But to also say like, I'm forced to not rent, I don't know, it's just weird. It's weird to me. If you have the opportunity to buy, then there is no scenario where I can see that you're forced to not rent. I mean, unless
it's rent evictions. I think
you're forced to leave. You're evicted, and you don't like being evicted.
Rents have gone up, 20% in the last year.
Yeah, I think that's what this article is kind of all
really
about.
High. That's what it was
just like
their clickbait.
They were forced to vacate their townhouse so their landlord could sell it. Okay, great. First of all, That's not legal.
No. Yeah.
Read the Residential Tenancies Act. Let's not mistake some landlords are shitbags.
Yeah.
That's not legal unless the landlord's moving in, and then if they sell that, obviously they weren't really moving in, so then there's an issue there. But then it goes on to say it just didn't make sense. We looked at where the prices of rents were, and it just didn't make sense. We couldn't go back to renting. That's emotion. That's not logical.
No.
Hey, I've got cash. If you have $200,000 for a down payment, you obviously have money for the rent.
Yeah, and your mortgage is going to be the same.
And your
price.
mortgage, especially these days, is going to be the same price or more. I mean, maybe there's some you can.
We need to get this person on the podcast and just
I'm done.
sit down with them and be
it's just such a stupid statement.
It is. It is. It makes no sense.
There's important parts to both in society. And the issue plaguing both sides of that equation these days and making things unaffordable and thus deletion of the middle class, as we mentioned, is just supply. The core goes always back to supply and demand. We're not building enough units. We have too many people interested in units in a very small area of this country. We're bringing more in, and the builders are, at least in this current environment, slowing down actively their new construction. And we have a lot of ridiculous rules, at least currently. People are trying to change that. A lot of ridiculous rules that prevent us from building more. It's a very, very NIMBY society, in a society where we have a huge housing crisis on both sides of the spectrum. So I can see people being pissy on both sides of the spectrum. There's merit to both arguments, but I have a down payment and I'm forced to rent just fucking makes me mad.
Yeah. Our city, specifically in Toronto, there's still a lot of single family homes in the downtown core. And even when you get to Midtown, it's all single family homes. There are not many condos or low rises, mid rises. Yeah. If you go to Europe in any of the major cities, the downtown core is all mid rises to low rises, all of them. It's practically the whole area. It's all this, anywhere from 5 to 8 story buildings everywhere, and it plays a role on urban sprawl. That's why Toronto is so big and long, and everybody has kind of their land and their.
Sorry, carry on. You said big and long. Come on, this is right there.
All right, well,
carry on. Urban sprawl.
Toronto's so vast.
Oh,
vast city. There's so much potential to make it denser. And starting from the actual downtown core, which you're seeing, but you're seeing these huge skyscrapers, which, that's great and all. I'm sure they make a lot more. Well, in theory, they should make a lot more money than a low rise or mid rise. And you're seeing the mid rises now, on DuPont, which I consider DuPont,
Midtown,
the start of Midtown. Maybe it's still. I would say Bloor is still kind of the upper core of downtown. Yorkville, and then you go up a little bit, and you see maybe St. Clair as Midtown, and then Eglinton is,
Well, they're not far apart, but
that's kind of border of north of Bloor's Midtown to St. Clair ish, and then north of that is uptown-ish, then you get to Yonge and Eglinton, sense. Which is, I believe, considered uptown.
I had a buddy that called Richmond Hill uptown.
Yeah,
we'd be we're going uptown.
So up city.
It's a different up region. I don't whatever.
I mean, you still have North York, which is but that's past. North York's an old city. That's a whole different thing at that point. Anyways, my point being, I think there's a lot of opportunity for densification. I think it will happen. We're in the process of it.
It needs to happen faster.
Which is tough. That's the whole argument.
It's not even a chicken or egg thing. It's very the people are coming faster than we're building units. That's the kind of the core.
The eggs are hatching, and there's not enough.
The eggs are
chickens. No, that doesn't.
But how did the eggs get?
There's not enough space for the eggs to hatch. That's probably.
That's.
We haven't even talked about.
We are but
pensions. Yeah.
Chickens. We don't. What's a pension? I'm a millennial. I don't understand. Pensions.
Okay, so how this works, and we may have to edit this out because I'm gonna butcher this, and this is gonna be the dumbest thing I've ever said. But
Spiro's making up info corner.
Yeah. Well, practically, when you retire, you receive your pension. the current working class pays for the current pensioners.
Right.
It's like this revolving door of we pay for their retirement. And the theory is that I'm paying my share and then I will get it when I retire.
Who's paying mine?
Well, no, the issue is how are we going to pay the one that's about to come up? Because there's baby boomers and there's a big population of it. So, and I don't remember the statistics, but it is a crazy difference of like really, it's almost impossible to even fathom how we're going to pay for that. It would be like our tax, our proportion going towards that would be like so big that we would be making zero income anymore because it would all just go to pay for it. Now, my thoughts on this is, we like you just said, there's so many people moving here that are now going to start contributing. Potentially. I don't know how this works.
Is that why immigration's so high? We're just bringing in
people to help pay off pensions. I mean, that could happen. I mean, when your population is like ours and it's an aging population, people aren't having 5-6 kids as often as they used to be, right? They're having one, maybe two.
I think that's very common across the board. I think it's Japan that's having like a real issue with like population decline. Yep. And I think that's going to become more and more real across the world. I mean, life is more expensive. It takes you a lot more time to get set up.
Education is much higher now. So, if you go back even 50 years, the norm was that, maybe a male will have some sort of education and the wife would stay home and raise a family. And your family would be 4 or 5 because there was a person whose full-time job was to raise that family. Now, to get by, it's really hard on a single income. It's
hard on a double income.
It's like almost impossible.
It's hard on
deletion of the middle class.
Yeah,
this is what I'm saying.
If you have 2
high income,
very good jobs, like our national average income is, I don't know, somewhere 60? In the 50s, 60s, like but the Toronto, I feel like in general, I mean, actually the Toronto average income is not much higher than that. But like you think of like 2 6-figure jobs, right? Most people would consider that a very, very good job.
Almost double the
you're
average.
Stable. You could sit there. A lot of people will say this is like great. This is my career. I'm happy in the 100, take over that 6-figure. That's the goal. Great for life. 2 of those people, 2 of them, both of them working, both sides of that couple. That's still tough.
Oh yeah.
So, it's kind of crazy these days.
Deletion of the middle class. I'll always go back to that. Yeah, it feels like it's happening.
But then who runs everything else?
The rich.
Who runs the system? No, but like who's working in the system? Who's like
the middle class? Well, the old middle class.
Exactly.
Where's
the incentive?
This is the reason, right? When you have a happy middle class, a large middle class, healthy middle class,
thriving economy,
you have no problems because everyone is content. You go home, you watch your Netflix, you play your video games, you go to bed, you wake up the next day and do the job that you don't want to do because you're going to go home again and grab some ice cream and go out and watch a movie.
Relatively happy. You're happy. Do the things you want to do.
You have no time to be upset about anything.
But what happens when there's 2% of people that live like fucking gods and then 98% of people that are like, why the fuck am I even doing this?
Well, that's
this
what you're
sucks
now. And the next year and maybe even the year after, if interest rates stay this high and inflation stays high, which they say it's coming down, it's still high. There's no way around that. I mean, everything is pretty crazy, and it was so high for so long already that we haven't even felt those effects yet. But now the average middle class is going to come home, and instead of being like, I'm going to go order a pizza and I'm going to do this, it's holy crap, I'm actually negative this month. I can barely afford rent or mortgage or whatever, and now my groceries, I'm paying this much more, and gas is more expensive, and this and that, and now I can't do that anymore. And all of a sudden, the middle class dream of I'm going to play golf on the weekend, and I'm going to do this, and is more of, hey, we have to maybe
find a side hustle,
budget, or do some work more, or
sell some shit,
or downsize, or and that's when where you'll get an uptick of discontent. And that's when people are going to start.
We're going to riot.
Riot
in the streets.
I'm holding back on saying anything like that.
Saying all the shit.
No, because hopefully it doesn't get there, and I don't know if it will. But that is the evolution of the next step of people being angry of their living situation and being a large majority of the population and not standing for crap anymore. And I mean, what you're going to see first is 100% elections. Elections are going to change it, and a new government will change.
I mean, it's always, your votes or your words. That's
exactly
real power.
And I think that's what's going to happen next is you're going to see a big government switch, most likely. It just makes sense. And I'm not trying to take sides. Again, I'm staying out of this. I'm not saying, oh, they shouldn't be in power or they should. It's just
I feel like it ping pongs all the time though too. Like if one party's in power for long enough, you realize that this is why all fucking people are flawed, and every system governmentally there's an issue with for a segment of people at the very least in one portion or another of it. But it was parties in power for any significant period of time. It's always they've gone too far to their side to piss off a majority enough of people to then flip it back, and then they're going to do their thing, and then they're going to piss off a majority enough of people because they went too far to their side, and
you just keep grabbing for power. You keep doing something that you gaslight the population to make them feel like what they believe in is wrong and what they should believe in is this thing. You're seeing it in media now. So hard. Everything in media, and actors and singers, and they're all saying, oh, you can't talk like this, you can't think like this, or else you're a bigot, or you're this or that, and it's getting pretty wild. Anyways,
I almost want to say that's a slippery slope, but at the same time, I don't know. There's definitely some things that you.
Oh, for sure.
Don't say you're a fucking asshole, whatever. Yeah. But at the same time, two things I think are important to know. One, people are, I feel like, getting a little carried away with the amount of things that make them upset.
A little?
I'm just gonna
a lot
there. And two, intention is important. Like, if I were to joke with you about something that I know that you and I are okay to joke about in this circumstance, I don't know, it could be anything, just not over a few specific lines. We're not going to say any examples. And honestly, there isn't really an example that I have in mind.
And there's nothing that bad.
There are lines that very clearly, obviously, you don't cross. But if we have a relationship and we can joke about things and we're comfortable, and someone fucking overhears it and they're like, I'm mad because you fucking said this to him, even though he was okay with it. Fuck off. Just fuck off.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Oof. Okay. I wasn't going to say much about that, but apparently I'm passionate about this subject.
That's true.
People need more problems. Even though we just talked about this whole
there will be more problems. Yeah, there will be more problems.
All of a sudden, people aren't going to care so much about the little things that don't matter. They're going to care about how the fuck am I eating tonight? Hopefully not, but it's probably going to happen.
I watched this really funny video. I never watched it. I should not talk about it.
Well, you're definitely going to talk about it now.
No, I can't do it. No, not ready yet. Not ready to go.
Wrong one. I should figure out what these buttons do.
No, not ready to go that deep in on it yet. But let's just say it was somebody really upset for hearing something wrong being stated about them, and they were
about
crying.
Oh,
and posting a video of it because that's what you do these days. If something,
of course,
you have to cry.
You must
go on
TikTok, obviously.
Yeah, post it everywhere and say why you're so upset. Not just handle it like a normal person would. But anyways, don't get me started about that.
I have a guess.
Yeah, it's probably your guess is probably right. And yeah. Anyways, let's move on before I get canceled even more. This is a cancellation podcast. Oh my god! I already know what the thumbnail's gonna be.
What? Spiro gets canceled?
No, I didn't say anything that bad. If anything, no, it's gonna be the middle class crisis. Is that clickbaity enough?
No. Destruction of no. Whatever. We'll workshop this afterwards.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
What else are we gonna talk about?
Well,
there was some other shit, but
yeah. There was the open houses.
Yeah, just saying. I don't know. Talking about real estate feels kind of grimy now after we're talking about the deletion of the middle class and shit. Fuck it. Let's talk about real estate. It's busy. It's weird. I mean, it's not weird. It's very much in keeping with the same shit that happens every year. It's
hold on. Pause.
Surprises me every
Pause.
year. Pause.
The middle class relies heavily on real estate. Yeah. So
this is the
speaking about
largest portion of their net worth.
Exactly.
Typically.
And the issue isn't that there's a few small investors buying a couple properties. The issue is that the majority of the middle class can now no longer afford it comfortably just to live. That's the issue. The issue is that the middle class has to pay more than 30 or 40% of their income on living. It's going to be closer to 60% on just living. Not that doesn't mean eating. That just means living, surviving, having shelter.
And that's not just I mean, this is, like I said before, this is an issue on both sides of the spectrum for purchase and for rent. There's the rental applications that you look at sometimes. The threshold used to be like 30. If you were reviewing a rental app as like a property manager, I don't know, 10 years ago, and even up to far more recently, the threshold was like 30% of like gross income to rent is like, great, you're good. You can't go too much further past this. Then like 40% was a stretch, and that was okay for a while.
No, that's like the usual. That's been the norm now for the last few.
And then like
years.
there was a period where it was like, all right, well, 50% I guess is like that's what we're getting, and we're just gonna take that. And then I think it dipped back down for a minute, but I don't know. I think in a lot of cases that 50% mark is also showing back up in a lot of for a lot of people. And that's a scary. I mean, especially when you talk about pre-tax income, that's fucking terrifying. What do you have left?
Yeah, that's pre-tax. Yes, that's a really good point. That's all pre-tax. And the bad thing is it's not. It would be easy to pinpoint this and say this is the landlord's fault. This is they're pulling a Galen Weston right now and making bread more expensive for no actual reason. No, that's not the truth. The truth is, for the most part, especially in the last year, it's been a year. It's been like 10 months maybe since the rate hikes have started.
Almost a year. Yeah.
Almost a year. There's actually the owners of rental properties are getting hit super hard because their payments are going up for the most part. There are some that, have their properties paid off and all that, and they're coasting through this, actually probably enjoying this time. But for the most part, a large majority have a big mortgage that now they're paying a lot more.
Yeah.
And then now does it make sense to have a rental property? And if it doesn't, then who's
providing the rental stock?
Who's
the rental
being
housing?
Impacted? Is it the landlord or is it the tenant? I think it's both at the end of the day are being negatively impacted, because now you're just losing housing. Housing's coming off the market. I mean, the argument would be, oh no, but then someone would buy it and move into it. Well, not necessarily, because no one could afford it.
They can't afford to do that, right? It's it's the solution. I don't know. I don't pretend to know the solution.
No one knows the solution. It's really
I can
tough.
only imagine more supply helps alleviate the issue.
Supply. Yeah, for sure.
And less demand, but that's not going to be a thing. But more supply is really the only lever I can fathom that helps alleviate the issue, because you have. And I know like a lot of everyone on either side of the equation likes to point fingers. We have shitty tenants and they clog our blah, and therefore whatever. Okay, fine. That's like maybe one horror story out of 100. And then on the flip side, greedy fucking landlord, rent eviction, and blah, 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 blah. I would say, having worked with both sides of that equation for many, many years, most people on average don't suck. And most people follow the rules that are permitted and they're allowed to work within. A landlord, just because their mortgage has gone up, just because their property tax has gone up, it doesn't mean they can automatically just jack your rent through the roof. If the unit becomes vacant, then it's very much a matter of the market decides. Like in a capitalist society, the market decides what the rent is going to be. If the landlord is super greedy and they want too much, they won't rent the unit.
No.
If the landlord is super chill and they post it for too low, they're going to get bombarded with applications, and there's going to be people that offer more than they've listed it for. And that's not necessarily the landlord digging for more money. Some cases it is. That's a whole strategy in its own. But it could just be, hey, there's so many people that want this that they're willing to fight other people for it. I could post a listing, walk away, and come back to whatever applications are there. And the price is going to be the price in a lot of cases. And if it's too high that I've posted it for, no one's going to show up. And on the flip side of that equation, like the landlord looking at a new purchase today can say, running the numbers, if you are buying an investment property, it's a business decision. You can run the numbers and say, I'm not going to I'm going to lose money every month to buy this thing, to provide housing, really it's an investment. I'm not going to pretend that you're doing it out of like the greater good of society. It provides a benefit to both sides. But if there is no benefit, then you're not going to do it. And therefore, then the house is just going to sit there. And maybe someone is going to buy it. Some end user is going to buy it and live there eventually. Or maybe it sits. And then if it doesn't look attractive for the landlord, there's so many people that want to buy houses. And there's also so many people that need to rent houses. But if all of those people buy, then there's no one providing the rental stuff. It's a very chicken or egg kind of situation, right? You need both. Both are very important. You look at a lot of like European countries that have turned like fully into like renter nations in a lot of big metros in Europe, right?
And we're always going to be lagging behind that. I mean, just timing of everything. Toronto is a very new city.
We're not nearly as old,
especially
right?
Being a metropolis, if you would consider us that now. Very, very recent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the 70s, the drive from even Etobicoke, border of Etobicoke and Toronto proper, out to Mississauga is all farmland.
Right.
Mississauga is all farmland.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
This is not many years ago. This is within half of someone's lifetime that it has changed to have this gigantic urban sprawl of this metropolis that we're in now. If you go to a city like London, not Ontario, London, England, that's been like that for years and generations. It's been like that, right? So there's a big difference, and we're just getting to that point now, and it's interesting to see. I mean, it's a natural progression of our, well, I say natural with the quotations, but again, this is where you look back at the last 2 years and we're like, oh, this was really sped up. This could have been 10. This was most likely like 10 years of normal growth would have taken us, and it happened in 1 year.
It all happened very fast.
And then it got deleted in a year, and you have now.
Yeah, real estate looked like crypto for like a year.
Yeah,
it was just fucking big.
Crypto looked like crypto.
Crypto looked like crypto to the power of crypto.
Crypto
for a while.
on crack. Yeah,
it was just
crack
wild.
Crypto.
I mean, it's just gonna happen when you have 20% of the country's population that lives in such a small geographic location. The rest of our country is like unutilized for housing, but also all of like the work is here, and a lot of immigration comes to this central point. Mm-hmm. You only got so many units at both sides. Again, landlord and tenant, both sides of the equation, and homeowner, are very important, and they're all going to be always needed. How do you make it a little bit better for everyone and make it a lot less volatile? I feel like supply. How do we increase that? Who the fuck knows? I'm not an urban planner. I'm just a fucking guy with a microphone.
last note then. Let's speak about you. So we were at showings last week. You stopped by a property, and what happened?
Which one?
The one with the people.
Oh, a lot of people. Yeah, well, there's a shit ton of people out. Okay, so this is a very this is kind of an early every year type of thing, but I think it's a little bit more. It's exacerbated more this year.
Nice.
Big words for Philly. Yeah, it's crazy this year. I think obviously rates gave people a lot of pause for a while. The holidays in general, just the general state of the world. People are listing less. We're seeing less listings in general. Where are you going to move? If you got a great mortgage, why you want to break that and get it stuck with something new? And then also people are starting to jump back in. I think people were scared for almost a year. There's been a lot of people on the sidelines that thought maybe this is the time to start making a move. And I think a lot of them are starting to show back up as we still have very, very low listings and quality listings specifically. And again, this happens every year. I think it's just a little bit more extreme this year, and it's happening a little bit later as well. We usually keep tabs on like a bunch of mediocre things, and they are starting to disappear. This weekend was a very, very clear example for me. I went to look at half a dozen properties or so. A couple of them had open houses by the time we got there. A couple of them didn't. And there's a pretty wide range of properties from, about $1 million up to like $1.9 million. Each every showing that I had, regular showing, there were people on either side of me, which I feel like it hasn't happened for a while. Like consistently every property that we looked at, no open house, was busy. You could tell the showings were booked. It was very busy. And then we went to look at some open houses. The one that was a little bit cheaper here closer to St. Clair. Our showing was before the open house, so we weren't actually in the open house, but it was like the window right before. So as we're wrapping up, the agent is showing up to like set himself up for the open house, right? And then when we walk out of the house, there was like 8 people ready to walk in, and this was like 5 minutes before it even started. We're across the street for the next maybe 10, talking just about the property, about everything else we've seen. We've got some time before our next one. And there was maybe another 20 people that we saw go through that house. A lot of young couples, I feel like, probably just based on like the price and where it was at and stuff like that. People, hey, this is my opportunity to step into the market, right? Yeah. After things have fallen. But this is 5 minutes into the start of the open house, and I think maybe we saw just shy of like 20 to 30 people, somewhere in that range. Crazy. And then we went to another one that was like High Park area, $1,650,000 with an offer date. It wasn't even like it was a weird, didn't fit both the investor like rental property model or like end user. It was a 3-story but split like 2 upper, 2 lower kind of thing, like 2 units, main and basement together, and second and third together, right?
It's like one of those end user rental
like you
potentials
can
where you
can live upstairs and then you have like a little bit more than a basement apartment, so you get a little bit more offset, right? Neither unit, like they were like mishmatched. You've got some new and then like a bunch old, and it's the price point. They want like $1.8 million for it. I kind of want a little bit more new. Anyways, long story short, we get there, it's full open house. There's like 3 agents in there, all kind of younger, and you could tell didn't know dick all about the property. The client I was showing through kind of like called one out after we were leaving. This is just a tangent.
Really?
But she called it out to me that he fucked something up. But like, learn your shit, especially your like basic shit. Or it's very simple. Learn to say I don't fucking know. Oh, like I'm just gonna give you a random answer because I don't have the answer is not acceptable. Just say I don't know. Take their contact information. Say I'll get it back to you or something.
Yeah, figure it out.
Here's
That's your job. Your job is to figure it out.
Give you the information. I'll get you the information. Just sorry, I don't have the answer. Let me get you that answer. Not what do you want to hear? I'm just gonna tell you that.
What was it? Do you have the example?
Yes. So someone was asking if utilities are split. Is there split hydro for the property? And it's a very simple thing to figure out. You just kind of walk outside and look how many meters are on the side of the house. And he's like, I don't know. Yes. Like you could hear the pause. You could hear almost him say no, or I'm not sure. And then he was like, you know what? Yes, they are split. The utilities are separate. Just
obviously weren't.
And as we're walking out, the client I was with, she was like, I really don't feel like they're like super knowledgeable about the property. There was a lot of times where people were like pinging them with questions and they were just like very like uncertain, right? Not confident what they were saying. So I'm like, all right, let me just walk to the side of the house so I can get you. It wasn't even her that asked the question, but I was like, I'm just going to get the answer because it takes 5 seconds to get that answer. No, they're very much not. Just say I don't know, and then go find the fucking answer.
That happens a lot because a lot of agents don't hold their own open houses as well.
It wasn't the listing agent. Right?
Well, exactly. And I had this happen where one of my clients sent his friend to the open house on a property that we saw recently just to get their opinion. Didn't want to, bother me with it. Not that it would have been bothering me, but just wanted to just send him.
Sometimes he'll do things like,
try.
This is my job. Well, I will help you.
Yeah.
Just tell me that you need help.
But it was, smart as well because he was like, my friend's gonna
shade the opinion.
My friend's gonna ask the agent there for some questions. So at this property, it was asking, 1.5, 1.6, something like that. So they were talking to the agent who was at the property, and it wasn't the listing agent.
Right.
And that guy was like, "Oh, no, not that price. I would go in at way lower. At 1.3, I would go in." And then now my client's friend's like, "What? Like, what is going on?" First of all, in their mind as well, they were like, "Okay, something's off here. There's no way my agent was just telling me that something totally different than this, or like my friend's agent's telling me something so different." And this guy is a guy, and the person on the sign is a woman. So probably
so 2 and 2.
Unless
you're
you
not
never
the
know,
agent.
right?
Oh boy.
Okay, so he's like, all right. He calls my client calls me and he's like, yeah, this is what happened. They said, we should, what he would advise is to prepare an offer at 1.3 and just hold out there. And I was like, well, that's not going to get us anywhere. And let me have a conversation. So I called up the listing agent. I called him and I said, hey, you're a dude that was holding that open house. Either you're bullshitting me or they're not on the same page.
Yeah,
and she's like, yeah, they're definitely not on the same page. Like, she's like, you can throw that. You can submit that to me right now. It's not going to get. You're not going to get a sign back.
Yeah. You're not going to.
It's not going to get us anywhere.
You're going to piss the seller off.
She's like, I'm telling you not to waste your time. Don't do it because I'm going to send it to my guy in 2 seconds. They're going to say,
and he's going to be like, fuck you, fuck this offer, just gonna fuck your clients, fuck everything.
She's like, don't do it.
Yeah.
And well, that totally stopped everything. First of all, one of the reasons being is that the property just didn't make as much sense as others on the market, right? That's the biggest reason, not because of anything that happened there. But it just goes to show you, if you're going to do an open house, either you don't know and you will figure it out, or figure it out first. But it's also really hard to figure it out first.
There's core details, obviously, that you should have an understanding of.
Yes.
You can't predict every question someone's going to have ever for any job. It's not just this job or whatever. Just learn to say, I don't know. I'll get you the answer.
Yeah. You don't even have to say, I don't know. You can just say, I'll get you the answer.
Yeah. Just let me get back to you.
Yeah. Say it all the time.
Just learn how to use Google, man. Google strong.
My doctor Googled
learn how to fucking
today.
search some shit.
I went to a doctor's appointment and they Googled something.
Yeah.
She's a great doctor.
And
I was like, I did this 100 times. Don't worry. I'll tell you the answer. On that note.
Oh, okay.
It's been long.
I think we did have a point. Open houses and things are busy.
I'm cutting it. Peace.